Ravi, to set the stage, during organizing this workshop, we had a lot of people questioning and sending in a bunch of questions. So, to set the stage, let me pick up one question that, could be helpful for everybody here. So, I want to ask you, what is shadow AI and why should we worried about it?
Okay. Let me take that first. Shadow AI. Let's split that word AI into two parts. One is just classic AI, and then agentic AI. And in classic AI, typically, there's some LLM in the cloud somewhere, and then people are in the company are accessing the LLM, moving some proprietary data through the prompts, and so it's kind of it's not good. It's a security issue, privacy issue, a whole bunch of issues over there. So, and the company is not really monitoring. So that's kind of a shadow AI that's being happening. On the agentic AI, there's lots of agents out there in the company running, and the company has no idea where they're running, who's running it, what they're doing, and that's what it's called. Kind of agent sprawl that's going to happen. So this workshop is actually to get ahead of before it starts get to the sprawl stage. You get control over it. That's the governance aspect. So actually, it's pretty apt to prevent shadow AI, agentic AI. You'll get an idea from this workshop how to manage that. So
Thank you
having
so much.
answered it, yeah, thanks. And if any of you participants have any questions, just type it into the chat, and Akriti, at the appropriate time, will get those questions to me. So, what are you going to get from this workshop? It's all common sense. And we are all coming from, it's not theoretical stuff. As a company at Akitra, we have agents in our platform. We deliver agents. We sell autonomous a platform for compliance. So, and we use it a lot, and the whole platform is an AI, native AI using AI, uses agents. So this workshop is based on what you've learned and how dealing with customers. So it's all practical information. So it's nothing theoretical over here. So you'll get the information to go and actually deploy it and use it at work. So it's a 45-minute presentation. You get to understand why governance changes with agentic AI, what's different about it. You get to learn the different frameworks or standards associated with the AI, and how you can adapt it for agentic AI, and then you will get a chance to practice this whatever you learned in the first 20 minutes on a real use case that we use it a lot in the company, and our customers use it, and then actually walk away with a 30, 60, 90-day plan. What with the workshop and what you learn from this workshop, you can go and actually deploy, learn how to get it done at work. So let's go to the next slide, and in the next slide, we will talk about what traditional AI these days, and then what does the agents do. So if you look at like a typical people are used to co-pilots or like a chat GPT prompt, they actually ask a question, or it suggests it comes up with an answer, or suggests a draft, or suggests like a Cursor's Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, coding Copilot. It'll suggest code and things like that, and you're ultimately in position to decide what you're going to do with that response. So nothing. Damage is limited. There's nothing much. Nothing bad's going to happen because you're in control. But let's take in case of agentic AI, where agents are kind of autonomous in the sense they're independently. It's pretty much a piece of code or a robotic process automation that is actually using AI to after a reason, and based on the reasoning, it'll take actions and that it's kind of non-deterministic in the sense what kind of action it takes. It depends on the reasoning or the output of the reasoning it does with the information it has, and it's so let's take a platform like ours that it's a compliance automation platform where there are lots of agents doing all kinds of work on the platform. For example, it does first the agent detect, verify, and then act on it. And some of these agents are working with talking to identity access management, and then talking to security tools. It's talking to the GRC platform. It's creating tickets. It's getting approvals, generating reports. So you can see them doing autonomously all this job without much human intervention. So that's where the agentic AI comes. And what happens when there are agents? So that's part of the workshop. Let's go to the next slide, and then we'll so before we get to this, there's a language associated with risk with agentic AI. And before I get into it, whenever you can see these agents actually acting. So what you do is if they're going to act, you keep you follow 5 steps over there. What are they going to do? You document that is you keep it bounded. What is the function of it? Then what are the permissions you want to maintain those agent to have those what those agents have? Then you actually figure out what the human being. In some cases, the agent will have a human in the loop, and then you figure out what evidences you're going to collect with the agent. So you start planning your design of agents depends on this. What evidence? When I say evidence is if something goes wrong, you need to reconstruct what exactly happened. So you have to collect all kinds of evidences. And then, if something goes really bad, then you should be able to recover. You should have a kill switch and things like that. So these are things you need to worry about when you work with uh, agents out there. But there is a language associated with these agents, and yeah, something's wrong. Yeah, there's a language associated with these agents, and the risks are pretty much common. And these are the 8 different kinds of risks. And these risks could be model, data, execution risk, or governance and oversight risk. And all these risks, we should have a common language to describe this risk. And these are the 8 common risks associated with the agentic AI: prompt injection, sensitive data disclosure in case for some reason the data you interact it has access to the data. And then supply chain, depending on the model you're using and things like that, the supply chain risk. And then you don't handle your data properly, excessive agency. Even today I just read a company lost their whole database. A startup lost all the database information because one of the agents went and wiped it out. And that's come from excessive agency. And that is, it has too much authority to do things and all that. And it, some of that comes because some of the tools are chained one tool, so people don't see it, and then allow these agents to do whatever they want. And the agents are clever; they start chaining tools and do additional things. And then the sixth one is the drift and misalignment and misinformation, things like that. That is, you have your original objectives and all objectives, policies, they start drifting. And the auditability gaps where you're not collecting enough information so that if something goes wrong, you can reconstruct it. And human control failures. If you look at it, most failures start with permissions, integrations, or weak process controls, not model quality. So let's move to the next slide. And so once you have governance. So let me step back and say what governance is. Governance is pretty much you having a leadership who's accountable, putting processes and structures in place so you can manage your agents. But as a consequence of good governance is compliance. So there are 3 different standards out there for AI compliance, and there's one from Europe, and there's one from ISO International Standard Organization, and NIST, it's the National Institute of Standards and Technology. There are 3 different standards. They follow like 3 different lenses. One is legal, the other one is it's actually a management system right in the middle, the ISO one, and uh, and the NIST is more operational thing. You want to get your environment operational. So in terms of EU Act, there are like it's mostly relevant in EU, but you'll see it moving into other areas over time as more and more countries follow what's happening and how they need to. They'll have their own EU, like the way GDPR is, they'll have their own EU AI Act. So what it does is, if you have an AI application, either you're deploying or you're selling it to customers, then you have to classify the risk and the role your AI system has, check any prohibitions and transparency triggers. That means, is the AI doing any prohibited stuff, or because the AI it has to be transparent, it has to communicate with customers what kind of information you're using to training the models and few other things. And also you have to prepare and maintain documentation. So that's rolling in. This EU AI Act is rolling in by next year, 2007 August. It's pretty much fully rolled in, but it's rolling in phases. But the biggest chunk happens this August. We'll come to it soon. And in terms of ISO 42001, it's a management system. Oh, okay, we can go again. Yeah. Okay, you stay here. It's a management system, and I'll give my opinion, which you should follow. That from what we've seen from our customer base, basically it keeps you. It's like managing the whole AI development. It gives you a process how to manage it, you know, assigns owners, policies, and scope and objectives, and slowly how to improve, evaluate, and improve your system, the whole process. And NIST is basically to it operationalizes your daily working of your whatever AI system you have. It could be in cloud, it could be an offering to your customer. How do you manage all that stuff? So it provides a way to govern, map, and measure and manage it. So on the next slide, let's go dive into EU AI Act. So you can see it started with in August 2024 and slowly rolling it. And the biggest chunk that is August of 2026, where you have to classify whether the application is high risk. If high risk, then there's a whole bunch of other things that need to happen, and there are and lots of obligations apply. And finally, the whole thing gets rolled out by 2nd August 2027. There are four main questions leadership worry about. What are the obligations? And that's covered in Article 50, transparency obligations. So you have to communicate with people who use your offering or AI system, all the what exactly is happening. And if the system is classified as high risk, then you have to get certified that that you follow the process, you're documenting, and there's nothing crazy going on in what you're doing. And so there's a third party auditor that needs to come and certify. And what operator role, what the use case triggers, what are the prohibitions? There are some things you can't do, like I guess race-based bias and a few other things. Many things is defined in the EU AI Act. And if you look at the workshop, just quick comment on the workbook. Workbook covers all these topics and goes into a little more details. And even there are links to all the standards and all the standards that are being discussed over here. So the workbook is very useful. I spent some time to think through what is really required for you to go and deploy this. So it'll be very useful to. If you have it, I think you must have received it by now, so you can browse through all the as I'm talking. So let's go to the next slide. In terms of ISO 42001, this is a very popular standard. I'll try to explain to you why this could be something that if you want to sell, it becomes very important, especially in North America and other parts of the world. If you're not addressing the European market, then this is the standard to follow. And it actually provides you a management system, not a pile of controls. So it goes through, if you want to manage anything, you have to go through the context, and context means what the application is doing, understand who's accountable for it. You plan the process to plan and support it, operate it, and evaluate the performance, and then actually improve it. So what this means is there are different sections over there, and then you have to have policies for each of these, and then you have to have controls and actually collect evidence that actually those things are actually that's what you're following. And then before the auditor comes and checks it. So from the leadership point of view, it's a scoped, because all the AI systems are scoped. You don't just it's not a pretty open scope to what it's doing, and you get clear governance roles and policies, and life cycle control expectation, and then all the regular management review and continual improvement. And that's just to comment on this, we we had a customer who's selling his application to a bank, and the bank wanted to make sure it's not going. His AI system is going to look at some information and make some changes to the banking software. And the CISO of the company was hesitant. They had gone through the POC, gone through testing, they liked the product, but when it came to actually deploying, the CISO wanted to be careful because these are, introducing some piece of software. They don't know exactly what fully, they're not sure about it. So they enforced one of our customers to get 42001 certification. So you can see, to sell, it becomes important, because that's the only way the CISO can kind of know that it's been fully, that there's compliance and all the processes are in place, and it does what it's supposed to do, nothing else. So let's go to the next one. I think this is the oldest framework over here from NIST, National Institute and Standards and Technology. It's NIST AI RMF. It's a risk management framework. It comes from a slightly different angle, how to operationalize a day-to-day thing. It provides a way for you to govern the accountability, policies, roles, and oversight. Way to and maps all the what the a product or offering is doing in terms of AI users and any issues, harms, and dependency and objectives. That allows you to map, and then you start measuring whether it's actually doing what it's supposed to do, and keep metrics, and look at if there are any risks. Then inherent risk. Then you have mitigation to get down the residual risk, and then also on a day-to-day basis how to manage it, thresholds, escalation, improvement. It gives you a process. So if you want something quick, you want to operationalize, NIST AI RMF is a good framework to follow. But if you want to sell, I think more people, the reason they do it is to sell. So ISO 42001 makes sense if you're not selling in Europe. Let's go to the next slide. So, what have we learned so far? Agents have to be bounded, and these is like a 7-layer stack. These are things that you have to do when you have agents in the environment. Like, you make an inventory, find out what the purpose is. It's like business, like ROPA and GDPR. If people are knowledgeable over here, you inventory that all the agents, then you figure out what the inputs are, what the guardrails are, and then what decisions the agents are going to make, and how risky, and whether a human should be in the loop, and if you're using some third-party models and things like that, then what kind of governance you need for that, and then what in the agents actually working, what kind of identity and what kind of permissions is required. So you got to and then you have to do the testing, and then maintain all kinds of telemetry, so that audit trail and kill switch in case something goes wrong. You should have all this thing in place. So for every agent, you have to do this, and have for all the agents, one by one, you have to maintain this. And also, like you said, the future looks all agentic. If you think about it, there'll be probably more agents in the enterprise than employees, probably an order of magnitude at least. And I think some companies like Amazon have more agents than employees these days, and they're like maybe 100, 200,000 employees at Amazon. So you can see it growing, and with all these agents, the sprawl is bound to happen. So you got to maintain some kind of metrics around it, and the kind of metrics, you have number of agents you've inventoried, and now all the credentials you've scoped, and evaluation pass rate, and these are some of the metrics you make sense to maintain. And this seven-layer stack is kind of common sense approach to uh, get hold of governance around agentic AI. And moving along, in the next slide. Okay. So when you're dealing with agents, there are a couple of things you need to, if you want to govern these agents, you have to collect evidence. You have to find out what actions you're going to take, and these lead to kind of design choices. So if there are three kinds of agents. Automatic, in the sense they will decide, reason, take action automatically. There are conditional ones. They will, you can make them do things on a conditional basis, and then they're so high risk things that there's a human in the loop for in case privilege escalations, and then for in the use case we're going to consider soon. And please have some noise coming. Okay. In the use case we're going to consider, where we're going to manage vendors, where the risk scoring, um, where the human in the loop is required. But the kind of evidence trail you maintain is what kind of inputs are used by the agents and reasoning, what kind of you want to capture the reasoning and the rationale for why it decided what the action is taking, and who's approving those action in case there's approval that's required, an outcome, and in case you want to roll back if something doesn't work out. So you got to maintain this kind of evidence.
So, Ravi, I hope we could pause for a question that has come from the audience, and we have a question coming in. How can we manage and monitor controls for these AI compliance requirements?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to it. I want to answer the question now. I will get to it in the next couple of slides. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so the question comes is, it's a good question. It's coming at the right time. So you have all this AI governance, keeping tab of all this, seven-layer stack. So this is where you need a, automation platform for making governance operational. So what does this mean? Agreed. If you take any framework like ISO 42000, it's a framework, it's a standard, it's a big document. So what you typically do is you build policies that will help, a whole bunch of policies that will help you comply to that standard. That those policies could be things like remote access policy, what are related to AI governance, and all these policies in place. A disaster recovery kills. I mean, in case it does, the agents do something crazy, policies for that. And then also, anyway, in terms of compliance, compliance requires you people, systems, and processes. It includes all that. So you build all these policies, and then you build all these controls in place. For example, if it's a remote access, or if it's an agent that it's a human in the loop or something, if it's doing a high risk, one of the controls says if an agent does something high risk, there's a human in the loop. Okay, and then you actually have to go and pick up evidence that is the case, that there's a human in the loop when they're taking high risk. So that's the evidence. So when you want to get certification, you have your policies, you have your controls, you have the evidences. The auditor comes and looks at it, and then get your certification or attestation, whatever that is. That's what happens. You can do it on pen and paper, but it's better to use a platform like this. And one of the benefits of using a platform, automation platform, is you you have all these things on the platform. That means if it's not in somebody's head or somebody's spreadsheet, if they leave, it's not a big issue. I mean, it's a major issue. Agreed. You have to start over again. So because of that, it makes a lot of sense to have a platform like this. But what are the benefits of other benefits of having a platform like this, automation platform, is you can you can integrate with all your systems and pick up those evidence automatically through API. You can get all those evidences. So you can go and through API get agent an agent and see what actions it's taking and whether human in the loop is happening and what did the human approve, disapprove, whatever that is. You can collect all that evidence and attach it to the control, and that can be done on a continuous basis. So what is the benefit of that is there's no manual work in collecting the evidence, like doing screenshots or whatever that is. That's one case. The other one is because it's happening in real time, you can have non-conformities rule. In case something is broken, you can go and fix it right away before somebody else finds it or it becomes a major breach. And the other aspect of this automation platform is when you want to go for compliance, it's typically on a periodic basis, yearly basis. So the next year, you don't have to go and run around collect all this information. It's already running in the platform. So that's the other benefit. And the final benefit is typically most companies do more than one compliance. For example, if you're doing ISO 42001, you're probably doing ISO 27001. A lot of evidences are pretty much common, like HR policies and things like that, are common across these platforms. So you can share those evidence. You don't have to duplicate all the work. So those are the benefits. So it doesn't make sense to do AI governance without using a platform like this. Go to the next slide. And this is just the evaluation of the platform. If you don't have a platform, I suggest look for them in the market. There are quite a few, including us. And there's some of the criteria you have to look for in a platform before you choose one. And ability to inventory all the agentic AI and monitoring and all the integrations, because you want to collect all these evidences automatically and all the evidences trail. And if you have policies, how to build those policies automatically and things like using AI itself to build the policies. And then how do you maintain these evidences and how when collecting all this human overrides and approval orchestration, all that tasking system where you need to get approvals. If all those things are built into the platform, makes it much easier. So if you ever wanted to do this AI governance 42000, it's better to use a platform like this. It's faster, it's easier to do it, and also it's repeatable and auditable and all that stuff. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so we're coming to the final part of this workshop where we're going to take an example in the real world, and this we have this example with our customers. I've taken this directly from there, and typically a lot of customers, like say example Walmart, they have hundreds of vendors, I mean thousands of vendors over there, and the supply chain introduces certain amount of risk because depending on the vendor, you may be passing information. If you're a lab or something, testing lab, you're passing customer information to the lab and things like that. One of the vendors who's doing the testing may get patient information. So depending on a relation, there's certain amount of risk associated with it. So you want to have a system in which you evaluate these vendors. And what typically happens in such systems are you evaluate the vendors in two aspects. One is externally, how are they externally means do they have standing in the industry, and are there breaches reported regarding those vendors? All the systems that's exposed to the internet secure? So that's one way you can scan and all and get some scoring over there. The other one is you actually figure out what your relationship with the vendor is, and you do a risk evaluation of the vendor by asking questions and getting responses, and then asking more questions, asking more documentations, and then scoring. And based on the scoring, you can figure if the vendor should be onboarded into the company for doing business, or should you reject or ask them to improve on the things that was found so that they can be onboarded in a future date. So this product is called third-party vendor risk management, and it's a big problem in larger companies with the hundreds of vendors. It's difficult to manage. And if you and we use agents to manage all this, in the sense of scoring, scanning the vendor externally, then setting up a risk questionnaire, and then sending the risk questionnaire, communicating with the vendors, getting documents. All these are done through agents in the product, and they automatically score. And then, in case you receive documents, actually read those documents and figure out any exceptions, and then score and give reasoning why the vendor has received the score and why what the recommendation should be. Does the vendor pass, and then should be and approve be approved. And there's a human in the loop. The agents actually do the recommendation. The human actually approve the vendor to be onboarded or not. So if you take this, if you understand this example, you can see how many agents are working. They're constantly working, and on a 24/7 basis. It's humanly not possible. Typically, some of these tasks take days to onboard a vendor. We can just bring it down to hours, or less than that, less than an hour to do these things in actual time required. So if you take this example, let's what we learned in the last 30 minutes, let's apply it over here. So if you identify all the risks, since I've described what the product does, what are the risks associated with it? Like, take it as a, in a typical workshop, there's a lot of interaction. We are not doing that over here. If it was a workshop, you the first, and I would break it into three different tasks, where the first task would be identify what are the risks associated with a product, something like this, and then define what the agents may automatically do and conditionally and with the human approval. In the like I said in the last phase, the approval requires human intervention. So and then list all the minimum evidence required for all this. Put the controls in place, and then have the evidence required for that and the approval process. So let's go on to the next slide and see what the risks have been identified. Before we do that, uh, for each risk, you identify, rank that five most risk, and then you get an approval. Define what is automatic, what is conditional for each of these agents. What is a, and then when is a human approval is required, and what evidence you need to collect. It's good to think about all that. And let's go to the next slide. And this is a way to look at all the risks. At the bottom left, bottom, you can see uh, there are five risks that's been identified. This is a sample. Vendor misclassification, then excessive access, evidence integrity, audit gap, monitoring, blind spot. You can put it on a heat map, those risks, and you can see there's two axes over there: likelihood and impact. And the way to look at it is, if you're, if you're traveling somewhere, the likelihood of accident and the impact of the accident. If you're traveling by car, the likelihood is probably a little higher than traveling by on a plane, but the impact in a car may be less than on a plane if you get in an accident. So that's a way to think about it. There's a heat map over there. Think about in terms of likelihood and impact, and put it on the heat map, and then you think about what kind of controls you're going to put in place for each of these risks, and then what kind of evidence you require for each of these risks. And if you look at, let me take one example. Um, so let's take evidence integrity gap. That's a risk. Okay. So what kind of control you're going to put in? Validate document type, provenance, and expiry before relying on AI scored evidence. The provenance means, the chain of custody of that document, its origin and history. That's what it says. So you want to make sure you have all that information, and then that's the control you have. And the evidence is document metadata, validation tags, and expiry alerts. That's a way to look at it. And in terms of and it's all defined in the workbook. You can spend time thinking about it. It's worth doing it. It's a good exercise if you're interested in this space. Let's go to the final slide. I think it's the final one. So, uh, so we pretty much come to the last slide over here. So if you actually want to deploy this, you got to think of a plan, a 30-day plan, 60-day plan, 90-day plan. So let's take the 30-day plan, the first 30 days. You stabilize it, you inventory active agents and connectors, freeze unbounded permissions. You kind of get handle of all your agents, define interim approval thresholds, standardized logging. That's what you're going to tackle in the first 30 days. The next 30 days, you put a structure around it, use cases. Then if you're doing multiple compliance, you do crosswalk and map this evidence across multiple compliance. And then you do the evaluation and you do all the things. If something goes wrong, put in a kill switch. Then who owns each of those agents, and then you operationalize in the next 30 days. The last 30 days, you build up dashboards and train stakeholders on decision and track exception and improvement. So that could be the first 90-day plan if you want to start getting handle of your governance and doing compliance associated compliance. And there are a few things. Why do you want to do the compliance? One is you can sleep a little better because you have all this process defined. Other one is to help you sell, and the third part is to for it may be legally mandated for you to become compliant. So that's pretty much we have come to the end over here, and I'll take any questions from the audience. If not, I'm hoping you guys all get to you've learned something, and it's all common sense. Now you can go and pretty much think in terms of risk and governance and take it and do your compliance or any of those standards out there. Akriti?
Yeah, I could read the previous question again, Ravi. So it was about how do we efficiently manage and monitor controls for these
So
requirements.
yeah, exactly. That's I think I missed out on the. If you have a compliance automation framework, you put controls in place, and then you collect evidences. It allows that to happen, and you can do it in real time on a platform like that. Otherwise, you have to do screenshots and collect it and attach it to the control or maintain it in spreadsheet. But in a platform, you can do it automatically. So through integrations. So there are multiple ways. You would mostly do it through integration, and you can also build certain non-conformities rules with that in case you can see any drift and automatically flag alerts when then this thing non-conformity, so somebody can go and address it right away, and so that way you're continuously compliant. So there are lots of benefits. So my advice is to use a platform to do that.
Right. And we have one more question that has come in. Where can we learn about the latest about AI security policies? Are there any recommended portals? So Akitra Academy is one such portal. It keeps making short, self-paced courses. For the security and compliance practitioners, lots of variety of courses you can learn at your own pace. Right now, they are like free to take up, and so that's one question I kind of answered on your behalf, Ravi, but you can talk more.
No problem. Again, Akita, I mean, we try to make it widely available. It's pretty much free of cost at the moment, at least. So you can learn a lot from there, and also you can always get in touch with us if for your any of your needs. So that's it. Any other questions?
All right.
I think
So
I think
yeah,
yeah, I think we hit
uh,
the end.
yeah, I think we are in the last minute of the workshop. It was very enlightening, Ravi. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. As many of you must have received the workbook, it will act like a reference guide. You can always reach out to us later as well if you have any questions. And you can follow Akitra on LinkedIn to stay tuned with all our latest updates and lots of these educational stuff. Thank you so much for joining. It's a wrap.